I'm coming. Who could possibly want something this hour in the morning?
I want to talk to you, Amber.
Babs, do you think Harold forgot?
No, I'm sure he hasn't. But you go ahead and have a seat. He'll be in real soon.
No,
Good morning, ladies. I'm sure sorry I'm late.
Oh, that's all right. We just got here ourselves.
Well, I was up late last night playing devil's advocate. I wrote down a lot of ideas of stuff that Charles might use against us. We got quite a challenge ahead of us, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Well, look, if you'll excuse me, I'll go make us some coffee, okay?
And it's a real good idea. Miriam, have a seat.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
Fine. Ready, yeah, I guess.
All right, we'll make sure you're ready before we have to go into court. But I do need to warn you, custody hearing can get kind of sticky before they're resolved. And in this case, with you defending yourself against your father, it's not going to be a pretty picture.
I know it isn't.
Well, let's talk strategy.
If I had known it was you, I would have stayed in bed.
I'm sure of that. But this is important.
Look, I'm not in the mood to talk to anyone right now, least of all you, so if you don't mind.
I do mind. Look, if you need time to wake up, fine. I'll even get you coffee. But I'm your father, and this time I intend to be heard. I know you're pregnant. Now let's sit down and talk about this.
No.
All right, then we'll stand.
How did you... What makes you think I'm pregnant?
It's not doing you any good to hide this.
Oh, I wouldn't waste my energy trying to hide anything from you. Who told you, Dr. Galvin?
Does it matter?
If it was Mother...
Look, Kate is your mother, and she has certain rights.
I don't care. I'm a big girl. I can take care of myself, so knock off the parental consultations behind my back.
Listen, we only discussed it because we care about you.
I can't even trust my own mother. She promised... Look, I have my own life to lead. And you do not fit into that, Dave, not to advise me, not to disapprove of me, or care about me. I don't need you or any of your concern.
But you're not alone any longer. You're carrying a baby.
This is not a baby.
I disagree.
I think I recall that you were the man who ran an abortion clinic in Kingsley in the 70s.
Yes, that's true, but you know I've changed.
Oh, yeah, I've heard all about your so-called religious experience. Well, save it, because I'm not interested in any sermons.
Amber, please, give it some more thought.
I've thought plenty about this, and I've come to the conclusion that you and Mother and everyone else thinks of me as some kind of walking incubator for what they want out of me.
Amber, that is not an it. It is not a thing. You're so wrong.
Am I? Aren't you just dying to have a grandchild? Wouldn't you just love to see yourself in another generation?
I don't think the world would come to an end if Kate and I never had a grandchild.
Then just why are you here? To sympathize?
To urge you to have this baby.
Oh, you see?
And to offer you any kind of help that I can.
Well, I don't want it. Is that all?
No, it isn't. Look, you're right. I do feel responsible for the baby as a grandparent. But beyond that, what you're contemplating is murder.
Stop it! I don't want to hear this, especially from a man who's terminated hundreds of pregnancies.
I know you don't want to hear it, but you must. Especially from somebody like me, who's seen both sides of the issues. You're thinking about taking a human life.
Terminating a pregnancy! My pregnancy! So don't you feed me with this propaganda.
Does Gil know?
No, and he's not...
Gil doesn't know that you're carrying his child.
So help me, Dave. You better not dare mention one word to Gil.
Now, Charles would surely have filled in Dan Myers on anything possible that could make you look like an unworthy or incompetent mother. Now, I want to point up those facts so that we can face them ahead of time.
I understand.
Okay. Now, Dan Myers doesn't know you at all. So even if Charles didn't exaggerate, the facts are going to line up pretty heavily against you. Here's a woman who divorced her husband and gladly signed over to him the custody of her son. What's more, although she was awarded visitation rights, she made no effort whatsoever to visit him or contact him for an entire year. During that year, she became dependent on drugs and was admitted to the psychiatric ward of Kingsley General Hospital, where she was under the care of Dr. Max Feldman. Listen, Miriam, if I say anything wrong, make any mistakes here, be sure and let me know.
Yeah, okay.
And also, if you can think of anything that I haven't said or that I'm not going to say here that he could use against us, I need to know that too.
All right, Harold, all right.
Now, while in the aforementioned hospital, you gained access to non-prescribed drugs and attempted to commit suicide by taking an overdose. After recovering, to the extent that you could be released from the hospital, you refused the obvious and excellent care that could have been provided for by your father, and instead you chose to live in one of the most depressed areas of Kingsley.
Well, it's really terrible.
I know it sounds terrible, Miriam, but it's necessary. Now, while you were living in this depressed area, you were kidnapped and held in captivity for many weeks, from which you suffered extreme mental anguish and physical deprivation. Now, you have chosen to move back into the same area of town, in the same house, and not only that, you've brought your young son there to live with you, in spite of the fact that your father has offered to take care of you and your son in the manner to which you have been accustomed. You have refused adamantly to live with him.
This is great. Harold, you're making Daddy sound like a real hero.
That's just exactly what Dan Myers is going to do. Listen. Charles Carpenter, on the other hand, is known and respected in the Kingsley community as a philanthropist and for his business achievements. He nearly single-handedly redeveloped the entire downtown area when he built Hollister Mall. Not only that, he has a devoted and competent full-time housekeeper. She's her own children and other people's as well, and she's perfectly capable of taking care of Eric Mason. And he also has the means to provide the best possible education for the boy and provide for all his earthly needs.
Earthly, yes.
It's going to weigh heavily in Charles' favor, especially considering your past instability.
But what about Judge Slaymaker? When Daddy tried to get me out of Ione's house and make me completely dependent on him, she ruled that I was competent.
I haven't overlooked that, but Charles isn't going to bring it up, and frankly, I don't think it's going to have much bearing in a custody case. Besides, the ruling for your competency in that case was only against the possibility of your being admitted to a custodial institution.
Great, then what's it going to take? Harold, what is it going to take to prove that God has made me a completely different person from who I was then?
Miriam, you got one powerful thing in your favor, and that is that you're blessed with a number of friends who are willing to testify in your behalf as character witnesses. Terry Davidson, Ben Martin, Alex Greeley, just to name a few.
Oh, here we go. Some nice hot coffee. That'll make things
good.
better. Miriam, what's the matter? Harold, what did you say to her?
Babs, it's okay. Harold's just telling me the truth.
Now, Miriam, I didn't say this was the truth. It's factual. It's a matter of record. But the truth is a little bit more difficult to grasp.
Then why are we even bothering?
Because of Eric. That's why. Look at her, Harold. She's a wreck. Tell her she can have custody of the kid.
Look, I want Miriam to get her son back. I want to say we can win this. But I'm not going to let you go into court unprepared. Frankly, Miriam, I still think that our best bet would be to settle out of court. That's my honest opinion.
You mean I'll have to go back and talk to Daddy again?
It couldn't hurt. Besides, you two might come to an amicable agreement.
Harold, you know what it does to her to have to talk to her father.
I do understand that. Miriam, I understand that. But it's worth a try.
Will you go with me?
No, it's best if I don't.
I'm Dan Myers, Mr. Carpenter's attorney.
Oh, yes, Mr. Myers. Mr. Carpenter's waiting for you in the living room.
Mr. Myers?
Mr. Carpenter? Well, you said on the phone that you had urgent business to discuss.
Well, the custody battle is urgent business.
Mr. Carpenter, I had to cancel an appointment to get over here.
Well, now, I can appreciate that, but you're going to be more than compensated. Now, please, be seated. You've met my housekeeper, Mrs. Lucas.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Mrs. Lucas, would you... Dan, what would you like?
Anything's fine.
Bring coffee for both of us.
Yes, sir.
Well, now, what kind of progress do you have to report?
Well, your daughter by now has been subpoenaed.
Excellent. You know, I can't tell you what satisfaction and confidence it gives me to know that Harold Webster is representing her.
I'm amazed that you were able to get a court date so soon. That's the first of next week, is that it?
That's right.
That's very impressive. Usually, Mr. Carpenter, that's part of my responsibility.
Mr. Myers, I think that you'll find that it's the unusual that I go for if you're going to work for me. Now, show me what you've drawn up against Miriam.
Yes, well, I checked out everything that you outlined for me as thoroughly as possible on such short notice. It's all accurate.
How's it look?
Well, there's no doubt that your daughter does have a history of emotional instability.
No one can argue with you there.
Also, I'm in the process now of readying witnesses to support that evidence. Her admitting physician or attending physician, and the psychiatrist who treated her at Kingsley General.
Good. Excellent, excellent.
Also, I assume from your notes that Mr. Webster will undoubtedly call a cast of character witnesses whom he'll undoubtedly try to use to refute such evidence.
As you said it very succinctly, undoubtedly.
Let's see, now we have Terry Davidson, director of nursing at the hospital, Dr. Benjamin Martin, Dr. Alex Greeley.
Yep, they're all her friends.
Also, Barbara Farley, who seems to be sharing this house that Miriam is living in Chesterfield. Is that right?
Now, that one is the prostitute. Won't she make a marvelous character witness for my daughter?
I have no intention of telling Gil about this pregnancy.
Well, then I'll tell him for you.
That isn't your right. Don't you understand? This body does not belong to you or to Gil or to God. It belongs to me.
Just back off a little bit.
That's a good idea. Back off and out that door.
Gil has as much right to know about this as you do. Don't you understand that? No matter what you think, common decency demands that he knows.
Common sense demands that I don't go begging to Gil when he is presently turned on to Stacy.
But this is his responsibility, too.
I am not interested in Gil. I don't want him or need him.
Amber, this baby is his and yours. No human being was ever conceived without a purpose.
I said no sermons. Now, will you get out?
Well, rest assured, Mr. Carpenter, that when I get done cross-examining these character witnesses, you'll have very little to worry about.
I certainly hope so. But some of those witnesses you mentioned.
Oh, Terry Davidson?
And the two doctors, Greeley and Martin. Now, they are professional people, respected professional people right here in this community.
That's all the more reason to encourage them to testify.
Yeah, you're going to have to explain that more fully.
All right, now, as you say, Mrs. Davidson, Dr. Martin, Dr. Greeley, they're all eminently respected professional people, and they were all intimately involved in the care and treatment that your daughter received at Kingsley General Hospital. Now, when I get a chance to cross-examine them as witnesses for the respondent, I'll exploit that same professionalism to support every shred of evidence we've compiled against Miriam.
But won't their personal relationship with Miriam work to her advantage?
Oh, no. Not the way I'll construct the questioning. See, they'll be bound under oath to answer the leading questions that I put to them truthfully. Now, believe me, Mr. Carpenter, Webster's witnesses will backfire when I get through with them.
Well, that sounds splendid if you're certain that it's going to work out.
Oh, I'm certain.
Here we are, gentlemen.
Forgive me, but if that's all the business we need to take care of, I really should be going. I've got a lot of other things to
Oh,
attend
but I wanted to show you the setup in my grandson's room. Don't you have time for that?
No, I'm sorry. I really don't. I really have to
Well,
go.
but let me tell you about it anyway. Mrs. Lucas, put that there. Dan, listen. I know what makes a young boy happy. And we haven't touched anything in his room since Miriam took him out of here. Right, Mrs. Lucas?
Not a thing, sir.
And he spent most of his time occupied with the things that I provided him with. He was happy when he was here, Dan, and he never complained. Miriam did all the complaining. Now he's got a complete video system. He has the finest computer on the market. He has a stereo system complete with tape deck.
That's quite a setup.
Well, I spared no expense at all to make him happy while he was here.
Evidently.
And I will spare no expense to get him back either. Do you understand that, Dan?
As I said before, Mr. Carpenter, I have no doubt about your suitability as Eric's guardian.
You think we can win?
I don't think Miriam has a chance.
Listen, Babs, you know that, and I know that, but that judge doesn't know Miriam from Adam.
But Harold, every time she has to talk to her father, I mean, it turns into a basket case.
Well, maybe this time we'll see a miracle and they'll see eye to eye. Besides, it's better to think small and settle out of court than it is to face Goliath head on.
Hi, Peter.
Hiya.
Were you waiting outside very long?
I just got here. I thought I should let you know.
Oh, sure. Come on in. We're expecting you.
Good. Thanks.
It's all yours.
Hi, Pete. It's good
Hi.
to see you. Look, Babs tells me that you got the references for Vicky.
You better believe it. All three of them. This is my mother's. This one is Dr. Ben. All right. And it's Jean.
Gene Redlin?
Yeah.
All right. Super. Well, that looks good. I think everything is in order here.
Hey, they better be. Look, you don't know what I went through to get them.
Well, Peter, I just assumed naturally that your family was going to be behind you in this. I mean, your mother's got...
My mother, she doesn't really know Vicky, so she's not too happy about this.
Peter, I don't want to cross your mother.
Hey, if you think it's my mother's idea that I came here, maybe I should get another lawyer.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
It's okay. I'm just working so hard at this thing, it seems like everybody's against me. Vicky needs me, Mr. Webster. My mother has a hard time seeing that. Well, are these people responsible enough?
Well, let me put it this way. I don't think I'll need any references for them. Oh, did you do any more research on finding that employer, what they call a professional sponsor?
Yeah, well, I've done some checking into that. See, I tried to get Dr. Phillips and Ben to, well, to maybe find her something to do at the Chesterfield Clinic.
I think they're pretty well staffed down there.
Well, yeah, they are, but Dr. Phillips told me something very interesting.
What's that?
See, his ex-wife, Kate Phillips, she knows a lot of people. Into politics, public service, that kind of thing. So he's going to talk to her and see if she can maybe find a potential employer for Vicky.
Terrific idea.
Yeah, well, I thought so. Okay, so listen, if she does, and if the employer hires Vicky, how long do you think it'll be before we can get her out of the prison into the rehab center?
Peter, you bring me an employer affidavit. I'll file the paperwork right away. I think we're talking 2 to 4 weeks.
Assuming everything's approved.
Assuming everything's approved.
2 weeks. Mr. Webster, that's hardly any time at all. I'm going to stick with this sponsor thing. I'm going to have you a sponsor by the end of this week or by the first of next week at the latest.
Yeah, I believe you will.
If that's all that's left to do, I'm getting out of here.
Be my guest.
See you, beautiful.
Bye. Did you get a load of that?
Rose, I'll get it in here. Hello.
Oh, Kate, it's Dave.
Oh, Dave. How are you after all the excitement last night?
Well, the excitement last night just came to a head this morning.
Did you see Amber?
Yes.
How did it go? Will you calm down?
Well, I waited till this morning as you suggested, and I tried to reason with her, but
But what?
it was unpleasant.
Oh, Dave, I was afraid of that.
But at least she knows now how we feel, and I'm thankful for that.
Well, what did she say about Gil?
Well, she was defensive about that. She resents the intrusion into her life right now.
Well, surely she'll tell Gil about the abortion before she goes through with it.
I think she needs to tell him about the pregnancy before she even considers the abortion.
Rose, would you get that, please? Listen, Dave, I am due at a library board of trustees meeting. Can I call you back?
Okay, I'll be at the clinic.
All right, fine. Goodbye. Goodbye, Dave.
Goodbye.
Mrs. Phillips, your daughter is here.
Amber?
Were you going out?
Well, I had a meeting at the library board, but it can wait.
Thanks. Very thoughtful of you.
I know you have a lot on your mind.
Oh, that's the understatement of the year.
Would you like to get it off your chest?
You lied to me.
Now, wait a minute.
You're the one person I confided in, the one person I thought I could confide in.
I wouldn't do anything to hurt you. I wouldn't do anything a loving mother wouldn't do.
Now, that I disagree with.
Amber, you're not in a mood to talk about anything, so I'm going on to my meeting.
You're not going anywhere until you tell me why you betrayed me.
I have not betrayed you.
You gave me your word. You promised me that you wouldn't tell anyone about my being pregnant. And yet I wake up this morning to the sound of my doorbell and the insulting presence of Dave Phillips. I could kill you.